Hello everyone. Good evening. Let's wait for a few viewers to join us. Today will be yet another episode of the author collaborative that I have been doing for over a year now. I am waiting for my guests to join me so I can add them to the session and we can begin today's episode. Before I invite the guest to the live, let me just give you a little introduction about them. I read her latest book, The Mess in Her Womb, and it is a fictional story related to a couple who is undergoing infertility. They are planning to have a baby, but they are facing some problems because of varied reasons, and it's the story of what the protagonist goes through and how she faces the problems and what causes many health and mental related issues to her, and it is the story of the couple and how they pass through that journey together. And I absolutely loved reading the book, and today's guest is the author of that book, who also happens to be a doctor herself, and she has written this book titled The Mess in Her Womb, and I absolutely loved reading it. It also happens to be a semi autobiographical book, and that makes it all the more, authentic, maybe, and also very emotional kind of a read. And we already have her with us. Let me just quickly add her here. Stay tuned. I have just invited her. Let's wait for her to join me. Hi, can you see me?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I can see you.
We have just me and my books joining us. Thank you for joining. Uh,
Oh, that's it.
yeah. So welcome to the another episode of the Author Collaborative. As I was just saying, I have been doing this for over 2 years now, almost 2 years now, and you are probably the 46th or 47th guest on this. Yes, I have done this with a lot of authors, and I enjoy conversing with varied authors who have written so many wonderful books. Before I begin today's episode, and I have already praised your book so much and also introduced a bit,
Thank
but before we go ahead, can you just introduce yourself?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's actually a big honor to be called on like 46th or 47th episode. And I don't know how you do this because even I started these live videos, and I feel that it's a little daunting process. For myself, I am a doctor, but now I have turned author. And I have written something about which is very relevant to me and to the society as well, which is the issues on the taboo of infertility and mental health. And this is it.
Yes, I was also just telling the viewers that it is a semi-autobiographical book, which makes it all the more emotional and authentic. So, I have a lot of questions related to my experience of reading the book, and also I want to learn a lot from you because the book was just something that I have not read, and I can't even, think of writing such a book because it's deeply personal. And for me to put myself out there in the way that, people will probably judge कि ये अपने बारे में बोल रही है कैसे बोल दिया इसकी लाइफ में ये हुआ at every pace people would be judging you like they might be thinking कि सच में ये इसके साथ हुआ था ऐसा ऐसा भी thought आता है so I have a few questions related to that and of course a few other things related to books and reading. Would you mind answering them for me?
Not at all.
Yes. So, my first question to you is that very thing that I was talking about right now, that you have written a book which is personal and it is inspired from
Mhm.
your own real life. So,
Yeah.
as an author of such a book, what would you say is the thing that one has to keep in mind while writing such a story? What are the do's and don'ts that go into writing a story which is, semi-autobiographical or something which is, inspired from your own life?
Yeah. First of all, we need to keep in mind this. There are two most important things that we need to keep in mind. First of all, how sensitive it is,
Hmm.
because it's not like we are the only ones going through that kind of pain. There is a whole cohort of us in the in the entire world. Second should be the impact.
Hmm.
The impact has to be very strong, means the viewers should understand the intent of writing the book. Otherwise, it's just writing a personal diary.
Hmm.
Nobody is going to, take an interest in anyone's life just like that. So there has to be a very strong experience behind it.
Yes.
And the major don't is that, again, do not, uh, if there is a socially relevant issue, do not constrain yourself at all.
Hmm.
Whatever problems you are facing
Hmm.
related to that, if you are putting in a semi autobiographical manner, just put it in a way that it empathizes with that particular cohort also who is suffering with you.
Hmm.
So do not restrain yourself. For example, if I have written about infertility,
Hmm.
I cannot run away from, how people have treated an infertile women, or they don't understand their problems. I cannot be, goody goody and say that everyone is supportive, everyone is this and all that. I have to put every problem out there.
Yes, that's very true. And one more question that I just thought of when you were answering is that where do you draw the line? I mean, that's also another issue. Where do you draw the line about, making the story separate from you? And how do you, limit yourself for not becoming too personal?
See, that's a very good question actually. The thing is, in my case, there was no line at all. So I thought that there should be a very strong relatability. If
Hmm.
tomorrow another woman going through IVF, if she reads my book,
Hmm.
she should, make it. It should sound like that. She has experienced all this. She has
Hmm.
gone through all this.
Hmm.
She should say, yes, yes, that's exactly what happened to me.
Right.
So boundaries are something, if it's getting too personal, thing that, this will make me uncomfortable. If I, record this event of my life, it will make me uncomfortable or
Hmm.
vulnerable.
Hmm.
Just leave it, because later on the book is out in the world and you cannot stop people from reading it then.
Exactly. Right.
So yeah, so it's better if whatever makes you comfortable, write it, but just make sure that, it is impactful at the same time. There should not be any constraints.
Yes. So, yes, thank you for saying that. Which brings me to my next question. That is, just a second, I've kept them open because I have like a list of questions. My next big question to you, which I found very inspiring, even before I picked up your book and I read about you and came to know about you, it was like that you are a doctor yourself and now you have turned into an author. Both are such varied and very challenging jobs. So how does one maintain that? And just give us some tips about time management.
For me, there was no time management. Honestly, for my IVF process, I had taken a career break.
Okay.
And in that break, I wanted to make that break, very useful for myself and for others.
Hmm.
So I thought while I'm going through IVF, I should, write the events. I mean, now I'm more eligible to write the events about it.
Hmm.
So, because I'm going through this right now, I'm
Right.
feeling all of these things. So, penning down emotions is even easier. So I took advantage of, that kind of vulnerable period. And right now, I don't know when I will get back to the practice. But all I know is that, whatever you do, whether it is whether I practice as a doctor or as an author, I would like to leave some impact.
Hmm. That's very important, right? Doing something that is touching people's life, affecting them in a way that they'll remember it for a long time. That's more important. Whatever profession you are in. Thank you so much for sharing that again. So my next question to you is, when writing about something which is, sure to break a certain stereotypes or break some taboos, with, for instance, a topic like infertility or mental health. So how does one go about writing that? And what should one keep in mind? The message, the medium, or the outcome. What should one do while writing about such topics on such topics?
Whenever we write about any socially relevant topic,
Hmm.
what we need to understand first is that, there are people out there, not just the ones who are going through it.
Hmm.
For those people also, who are college students, who are, who don't fit to the bill as a reader. but they might pick up your book, they might read this, they might want to understand this. So when that happens, we have to keep in mind their perspective as well. Like if I'm writing about IVF, so there are, when I'm going through IVF, and so there are some people who don't understand my problem, so they, end up giving unsolicited advice, or they just end up dismissing that it's okay, move on if you can't have a child, and something like that, or they just casually say adopt and go away. I know they mean well, but you have to keep in mind that you have to teach them something, and in a very soft manner. So when I am writing about such thing, my whole intention was to teach an empathy towards infertile couples, to those who don't understand infertility. So that's what we have to keep in mind. And another thing that happened with me was, for example, I did not understand a term called as aspec, which is aromantic and asexual. So I did not understand before, reading books about it. So when I read some very good books, one book is called as aspec itself, and then I understood that what does it actually mean, and I am going to, inculcate that issue also in my next book. But they basically describe the whole experience with so much of empathy and so much of gentle words that it created an impact eventually, and it opened my mind. So it has to open the mind. That is the whole thing about writing socially relevant issues.
Yes, so actually not worrying about the outcome, but more on the medium and the way you portray the message. That's more important. Correct. Thank you for sharing that with us. So again, we are talking about your book only because even in my review, I have raved so much about it and I loved it absolutely. And the one thing that again struck me was that it's written, it has a few technical terms of medicine and science. So and I am sure most of your readers must also have commented on it, and there is a bit of knowledge about it. You have tried to explain it in normal terms, but even despite that, I'm sure many readers might not have been able to understand it as well as you wanted them to. So your background helped, of course. But what does a writer who's not related to a field like this, or when they are going out of their knowledge pool to write about a story like that, what do you have to tell them? What kind of advice would you give them?
First of all, I needed an advice on that. So I had consulted a doctor who is herself an author. So I asked her this thing that, how to make medical jargons easy for people. So she said, Chhavi, before I answer this question, you have to, remember one thing. People also watch Grey's Anatomy. It's going on 19th season for a reason. It's full of medical jargons. And people watch Chicago Med, people watch ER, they watch all medical dramas. So, and when I was writing this book, I had a target audience in my mind. I had, infertile couples as well as people who know such infertile couples. Those were my target audience. And trust me, all of those know these terms. And we are very well versed. In fact, as a clinical microbiologist, I am 100% sure I wouldn't have known about IVF if I would have been able to conceive naturally. I mean, to this detail. So, doctors from very different kind of streams, even they don't understand. Even some gynec who are doing conventional practices, they don't understand the whole process of IVF, the way infertile couples and infertility specialists do. Okay, so any kind of reading, whatever you are putting in your story, it does need a certain expertise. You have to talk to people related to that particular field in order to get it right. So even if I am not a doctor, I would have known these terms 100%. Yeah, so that goes for any story. I mean, I'm sure with your story it required much more, but I'm sure with any kind of fictional story that talks about any work-related field, it does require certain kind of research and talking to the people of that field to get it right. But I will always advise one thing, all the authors, if there is any technicality, do not hold back. Let me work for it. Let the readers also will gain knowledge that way, right?
Right.
So let readers, understand about it. Let readers, give a they're very intelligent. Bibliophiles are very intelligent people. So let them give a chance to, research about it, understand it more. It's much better, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's also a good point. I mean, yes, I am also a bibliophile, and the point that you made that we are very curious people and we are very smart. That's also true. If we don't understand anything, we will stop there and we will go there. We will go somewhere where we can understand it better.
Honestly, I really want to dumb down anything for the readers because they are so evolved. I think that, it's basically insult to their intelligence.
True. Thank you for saying that. Which brings me to my very last question. That is, what you would say to the authors like us who are indie authors? They are not represented by any publishing agency, or they are going with smaller publishing houses. So, what do you have to say to them to, in order to be able to grab the attention of more readers and the big publishing houses?
I honestly recently I grabbed an attention of one publishing house, and since my work is pre-published, so they had to let me go. But the thing is, I really don't understand what fancies their whimsical, and I really don't understand because there are some Indian publishers like Srishti, Roli. They don't need impactful books. They need a high voltage drama and from a known author.
Right.
So yeah, the one
Yeah.
who is already a known.
I believe more than known author, they want to go for somebody who's commercial, who will bring in
Yes.
profits.
Which is perfectly understandable because they also want to sell their books
Exactly.
and they have a business to run, which is completely understandable.
Yes.
And if you really want to create an impact, there are tier one publishers like HarperCollins and Hay House, but again they have so many impactful stories that it's very difficult to
Yes.
crack.
Yes. True.
So, but it doesn't mean that your story shouldn't stand a chance. Self-publishing should not be the first option even after that, because these self-publishing houses, they don't deserve a dime from us.
Very true. I am also very much like, why should we? I don't know. It works for many people and they have been really successful, but I'm also from the school of thought that why should somebody get paid to publish my work? I am somebody who should be, we should be getting paid because we are producing something, we are giving our time and effort for something. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, so I always end up thinking, why should I give my hard-earned money? Isn't my art enough?
Exactly. I come from the same school of thought. Oh, why should I pay somebody to have my book out there? I am already giving my time and effort to write a book over a period of a certain time, sometimes more than a year, sometimes 2, 3 years. So, yeah. Okay, Chhavi, that brings me to the end of my questions. Now, what I would like from you is to read out a few paragraphs from your book so that, whoever is listening to us will get an idea of what we are talking about.
So it's one conversation between, my protagonist Trishti, who is suffering from infertility, and her boss, Dr. Bakshi. So the context, I'll give a little bit context behind this. One thing is that Drishti is suffering from infertility, and just a night before, she's come to know that her friend is pregnant naturally. So she's a little bit depressed. She's a little bit off, and next day she meets her, ex-boss, Dr. Bakshi, who is childless by choice. So I will read out this conversation from my book. So she asks one simple thing, that they are sitting on the beach. Can I ask you something? I asked out of nowhere. Of course you can. Dr. Bakshi ran her hand through her hair. So it's a little personal though, I want. She nodded to encourage me. Why did you and sir decided to never have kids? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like this. I apologized in a hurry. Not at all, she assured me. I was just thinking that even if I give you an honest answer right now, you won't believe me. Why? I was confused. Because it is too simple. I was sitting with my knees against my chest and my arms around my knees, which was quite comfortable, but her words were crammed in my head. Don't worry, she answered. The answer is that I never felt like it. You never felt like it? No. Karan and I had never decided to have or not have kids. We just kept an open mind. This response made me inquisitive. So no one in your family ever raised any objection? She sighed deeply before saying, you are not the first one, not the last one to ask me this follow-up question. Yes, they did object. But but we convinced them. We both were happy together. And how did you handle them? I didn't. I ignored them. So this was the conversation where I wanted to, emphasize on one thing. So there were varied kind of women in my story. One who could not have kids, who was the protagonist.
Hmm.
Her fighting to have her own kid was perfectly okay. Then there was, Mrs. Seema, who raised her kids, and now she has given them a very independent life. And she said that I don't want to be a burden on them. I just want to live my own life
Hmm.
independently.
Hmm.
So there was another kind of woman, and she's the kind of woman who was childless by choice, and she was comfortable with that kind of
Hmm.
decision. She did not think that she needed to answer someone else, or and there was one career oriented doctor, Dr. Jia Premji. Although she was career oriented, she did not want to marry, she did not want to have kids. Even then, she empathized with Drishti when she said that, I had miscarried an IVF child. So, with this book, I wanted readers to know that every kind of women should be comfortable in this world.
Hmm.
The one who is childless by choice, the one who has IVF, the one who has natural pregnancy, and the one who adopts.
Hmm.
They all are equally acceptable.
Right. And it comes out really well. I must say that to you again, although I have put it in my review also. I must say that the message comes out really well, and kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Chhavi, now I am done with my long form questions. I believe you have also read my book, and I just today morning I read the review and it was wonderful. So, if you have, hello, did we lose you? Can you hear me? Yeah, I think we lost you for a bit. So I was just saying that I believe you have also read my book. So based on your reading of the book, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask.
See, first of all, your book came out as a warm hug to me because it was, first of all, it was so comfortable to read. And after every story and poetry, I was lingering in between. I have a lot of lingering thoughts. I would just finish a story and I would think about it for 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, the ending is cliffhanger, but it's not the cliffhanger. So it's the most beautiful thing about your
Thank
stories.
you. Thank you so much. I'm glad it made you feel so positive and warm.
Yeah. So my questions actually they are in my laptop. Can you please wait for two
Yeah, sure, no
minutes?
problem.
Just two.
Yes. Till the time you do that, if you guys have any questions for us, and thank you, I noticed that a lot of you are sending us hearts and a lot of emojis as reactions. Please stay with us as we continue. Chavi will be asking me a few questions of her own uh, related to my book and writing. Thank you for
Yeah,
staying with us, and if you have any questions for us, please feel free to ask in the comments.
definitely.
While you were answering, a lot of people sent us uh, various emojis to show their support.
Oh, sweet. Just give me 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah. So my first long question is, what inspired you to write a Christmas theme book? Actually, I love Christmas theme.
Hmm.
If you ask me, I love Christmas theme movies, Christmas theme everything. So what inspired you to write a Christmas theme book?
So Christmas, I have studied in a convent school, so Christmas was always a huge thing in my school days and teenage years. We used to celebrate it very loudly in school, and that's how Christmas became very special for me. It was a part of my growing up years. That's what basically inspired me to go for. The first reason was that. The second reason was that I already had two stories written by the time I wanted to bring out a book. They were not focused on Christmas, but I wanted
Mhm.
to, make them into an anthology and bring them out in a couple of months or maybe 2 3 months. I wrote those stories in September, and nearest season for that was for the release. The auspicious time for releasing the book was Christmas, so I thought of giving it a Christmas theme.
And that came out wonderful because I am going to reread the book in December, I feel, when we have all that, celebration in the air.
Yes.
And how much is relatability important when it comes to a story? Because your stories were quite relatable, and relatability is something that even I believe in.
Hmm. So
So how important is to you?
I believe it's really important. I write stories that are very slice of life. I write stories, though I might not have experienced them personally. I write stories which people have, shared with me over the years, or I have observed myself. So they are
Mhm.
very real life experiences with a, of course, a tinge of fiction in them. And I believe that that's what makes my stories work, and I have stuck to it because I know how readers feel after reading my stories. They come back and tell me how simple my stories were, but uh, what makes them really special is the simplicity. And I
Yeah,
believe that's what works. I mean, what else do you want? There is Sudha Murthy also, whose stories are so simple and yet we love them. So,
exactly. I remember your stories reminded me of, the times when I had read Malgudi Days. And,
um,
there was a very simple show used to come on ZTV. I know it sounds a little cheesy. It was called as Rishte.
I know
So
I love
every
this.
week there was a separate. Exactly. So it reminded me, I thought I'm reading Rishte. Like every episode felt like that.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Now, we both are indie authors. So, what was your process of, coming up with the different stories? Because this is my weakness. I can't write short stories. I want to have a huge story and I want to focus on that.
Hmm.
So, what inspired you to write such different stories, and how did you come up with those?
Okay, so unlike you, I have written only one novel, and short stories is something I have been doing for the past 4 to 5 years now. So short stories comes more naturally to me than long form of writing, I believe. The easiest that comes to me is poetry, which anyone who has read my works will come and tell me that poetry is something they love the most when I write it. More than anything that I
Mhm.
write, they like my poetry the best. So it goes like that for me: poetry, short stories, and long form fiction. uh,
Mhm.
it has, I think, because I have read so extensively in my growing up years, and I continue reading so much now also, I think it comes intuitively for me. So it's not something that can come out of you, one fine day you just sit down and wow, I'm a writer. That doesn't happen. It's a process that happens over a certain number of years and over a certain number of reading
Yes,
of books.
that's true. And what are your future works? Are we anticipating any anthology or a novel?
So f- probably an anthology first, sometime next month, hopefully. And
Oh.
within the end of this year, I'm planning to bring out a spin-off of my debut novel, Love Triangle. I am writing a
Mhm.
story on two of the side characters who were very much loved, and people wanted to know what happened there. So I am making them the main characters of the next book.
That reminds me of one thing. In your From your book, this Under the Mistletoe, do you want to write any spin-off from any characters? Because from from the first story, I was wondering the same thing. if you want to write any spin-off, because I really loved all the characters equally.
I have not really thought about that because, when I wrote the stories, they were like, यहाँ पे perfect ending है इसका. I don't want to, stretch it a bit more, not spoil it, because we have seen that with so many movies and shows where, they didn't end it where it was supposed to end, and unnecessarily they brought out the sequels and it just ended up being disappointing. So I don't want to do that.
Because there was one story I particularly liked, that a boy is doing good deeds only to come in the nice list. So he thought that he is entitled to have, to be in the nice list only because he's doing the nice things deliberately. So that was a beautiful lesson. I think this is something that I will definitely going to read to my kids.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. So another question. Do you plan to become a full-time author?
No, I don't think that should be a plan of action for anyone. That's not a very smart choice because royalties will not pay your bills. However successful you are, however millions of copies you sold, sell out, and whoever picks up your book, whoever your publisher is, even if there is a bid and you win lakhs and crores of rupees if a publisher picks up your book, it's not going to be sustainable in the very long term. You have to have various sources of incomes if you are planning to become a writer. So no, I don't think I will ever do only full-time authoring.
Good answer. Very practical. Even I don't think I'm going to be a full-time author.
I don't advise it to anyone also because however lucrative that sounds, and there is that tag of becoming an author and you want to become popular, it's not very sustainable in the long term because royalties are peanuts. Honestly, they're not going to pay your bills.
That's true. So, do you want to recite any poetry to us or any prose from your book?
Yes, just a second. I will do that. Thankfully, I have kept the iCard here because I don't have the paperback version of this out yet. Hopefully, very soon. Let me read out from the first story itself. The first story is called Secret Santa. I will just read out the blurb of the story so people will understand what the story is all about. So the story is titled Secret Santa, and while celebrating Secret Santa at the workplace, hilarity and romance issue. And as the gifts are anonymously and some mistakenly exchanged, a lot of misunderstandings are forgotten and some new friendships are forged. This was one of the most, accepted stories I feel because everyone who has worked in a corporate was like, हाँ ये तो हमारे साथ हुआ है.
Exactly.
So this story begins. Ho ho ho! The Santa poser guffawed out loudly as he handed over his gifts to the receiver of the day. Today's receiver was Akansha, and as the Santa poser handed over a rather tiny package to her, she was immediately surrounded by at least 5 or 6 people as she quickly began to open the gift. Before Akansha herself could react, her close friend Simran squealed excitedly and declared, "Oh wow, that is so thoughtful! Surely your secret Santa has a crush on you to know you so well." It was a handmade coupon booklet of all leading cosmetic brands, right from L'Oreal to Lakme. One could easily make out how happy Akansha was on receiving such a personalized gift. Right away, speculations began on who the secret Santa could be. Simran once again was the loudest as she firmly declared, "It has to be Rohit. He has been quite the lover boy to Akansha. He got her that customized cake on her birthday too, remember?" All the girls standing around Akansha's desk nodded at this. In unison, they looked over coyly with giggly smiles at Rohit's desk. Owing to all the sudden attention, he visibly blushed and ignored this jibe. So this is how the story began. The Santa has just handed over the gift to one of the girls, and the gift happens to be a coupons book where all
Right.
the cosmetic brands, and the girls are behaving very typically, as one would say, they
Right.
are proving the stereotypes. So then they are already speculating who the gift could be from. And the story
Right.
goes on to, you know, reveal who the sender of this gift is, and there is a lot of confusion behind it. So that was about it. Now we begin the fun part, my most favorite part of the session, which is the rapid fire round. So, are
Mhm.
you ready?
Yes. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, my question. Yes. So you have to answer in 5 to 10 seconds, whatever comes to your mind very quickly. The one thing you dislike about being a doctor.
People's speculation that doctors are there to loot them. I
Mhm.
mean, the skepticism. There's a constant skepticism around doctors.
Very true. My sister-in-law is a daughter, so I very well understand this concept that
Yeah,
And my sister-in-law always says that we have given so many years of our life to becoming a doctor. We deserve whatever we are asking for.
true, true.
Yeah. So my next question: one thing you dislike about being an author.
Not having many resources to use my voice
Hmm,
for a sustainable amount of time.
very true.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. One issue other than infertility that and mental health issue that you feel needs to be written about more.
Okay, so there are two things I think needs to be written about more. One is adoption and identity crisis in an adoptee child,
Hmm.
which is very understated because adoption itself is, kept secret for a long time.
Yes.
And the child who comes to know that he was adopted, even if they are raised in a, very amicable kind of environment, they suddenly go into a frenzy that their life could be something else,
Hmm.
and they become inquisitive about what it could be. So it becomes a kind of identity crisis that whether we belong here or not.
Hmm.
So it doesn't hit mentally very easily. So these are the books that I will write in the future as a sequel to The Mess in Her Womb.
Very nice. I'm really
And
looking forward to that.
yeah. And another that I really, believe in is another socially relevant issue, that is LGBTQ.
Hmm.
I don't think that in India many good books are present to raise, awareness.
Hmm.
So that needs to be done.
Yes, very true. I also agree that these two genres have not been written about much, especially in India. So if you write that, I'm really looking forward to reading.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, a book that you made you feel like I could have done this better.
There are two actually.
Hmm.
One is The Rule Breakers by Preeti Shenoy.
Hmm.
It started off very with a very feminist vibe, and it's from in the 1990s era,
Hmm.
mid 1990s. And the second half of it had a complete downfall. It became too Bollywoodish and too filmy. So I thought it could have been I mean, there should have been just one focus, that is feminism and education.
Hmm.
If the intent was that, so that intent wasn't, it didn't seem like it was maintained.
Okay.
And another book is Medicos by Dr. Nachiket Vyas.
Hmm.
So wherever there were surgeries in details or medical procedures in details, he was very well versed with writing. When it came to emotions, he faltered badly.
Hmm.
So that was the part I thought, I could have done this better, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
So if you write something related to those stories, we would love to see what you do with them.
Thank you. My next story is actually a medical drama.
Oh wow.
So it's based on COVID-19. So we had seen doctors, during COVID that came forward like in ICU, in wards, and there were invisible doctors
Hmm.
who were, preparing COVID reports with COVID samples.
Hmm.
So this is all about lab physicians. So it is, this is a hospital drama, but it is a lab physician drama.
Wow, sounds really exciting. I mean, we know that you guys were COVID warriors, but we don't know the personal essays, what really went behind them. So,
And it's not just about it's about every invisible person during in that hospital. So it's about, pharmacists, it's about janitors, it's about lab
Hmm.
technicians,
Right.
and it's about all the, quality control officers. It's a
Oh,
story about
so
all of
so
them,
the doctors and the
microbiologists.
support staff, everyone who's related to a
Yes,
hospital.
all support
Yeah.
staff. Exactly.
Wonderful. Okay, my last question to you in the rapid fire round is an adaptation we are really excited for. It could be anything,
Nothing
not just
actually.
movie adaptation. It could be anything.
I actually haven't thought of any adaptation recently because, yeah, there is one actually where I was mildly impressed about it. That is 2034 by Bruno Beaches.
Okay.
So just like 1984, but it's in this era, dystopian. Again, it's a dystopian era where government is controlling everything, and
Hmm.
the author himself says that it's heavily inspired by 1984.
Hmm.
So I would love to see the movie adaptation of that
Hmm.
book, but not in Bollywood.
Yes, I totally understand that. Okay, Chavi. So now I would hand over the quote to you.
Yes. So my first question to you is, according to you, who is the most inspiring author?
On the risk of sounding very
Inspiring.
stereotypical, I
By inspiring, I mean, the one who really, brings out the author in you.
who really brings out the author in me. Okay, I would definitely say Sudha Murthy because her stories have really inspired me. And if you are talking at an international level, I know her views are very controversial right now, but despite that, what she has done with the series is not something I can easily forget, and that is J.K. Rowling.
Yeah. Yeah, now she's not that relevant to us, but I think when she was, she had done a good job.
Yes.
The most overrated author.
Okay. Again, I would like to say J.K. Rowling because we need to move on from Harry Potter now.
Post Harry Potter, I don't think any of her work had any,
I
effect
have
on
not even
anyone.
read anything besides Harry Potter written by her.
Actually, it was very unexpected. I started Casual Vacancy, and it's on DNF. I could not finish
Hmm.
it. The most beautiful book of your preferred genre.
Most beautiful book of my preferred genre. Uh, okay. I don't know if my preferred genre or not, but a book that I especially liked in my childhood was The Black Beauty. I'll tell you why. Because it was the first book that I ever read, and it made me cry. And I had not read an animal story like that. I was probably 8 or 10 years old, and I don't think I have ever read any animal story after that that made me cry so much. Probably because I was at that vulnerable age, maybe.
Yeah. Black Beauty was actually my first classic, but my emotional quotient was very low to, cry about it. Christmas theme book recommendations.
I cannot recommend enough Christmas Carol and The Gift of the Magi. I mean, these two books are like something you have to read, and also The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. These
Yeah.
stories have actually inspired the stories that I have written related to Christmas. So, if you want to begin here. Other than that,
So on that,
yeah, sorry.
no, sorry.
No, I was saying other than that, there are many popular contemporary authors who have written very good Christmas stories and indie authors. I want to mention again that they are indie authors, so do try out Christmas stories written by indie authors.
And now when we're talking about stories written by indie authors, and now when people are really watching, I would like to say, please do not get stuck on paperback.
Yeah.
Go to Kindle also. Just don't close your mind that we can read only paperback because it's a nostalgic smell of book or of some library or something. Just go to Kindle. People who could not get to paperback have written brilliant stories on Kindle, and they're on Kindle Unlimited as well.
Yes.
So I would rather have Kindle Unlimited any day instead of having a some fancy library subscription or something like that.
Which we don't even use
So
to the fullest.
exactly. And one more bonus question for you. Any Christmas themed movies that you really love?
I think the movies that were made as adaptations of the stories that I mentioned, I have always loved. I mean, I am all for any kind of adaptations that these titles bring out, uh, because I don't think I will ever get tired of A Christmas Carol or The Gift of the Magi or the Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I definitely recommend all adaptations of these stories. Having said that, there are a few good Christmas related movies on Netflix. I'm not recalling them, but if you just type Christmas on Netflix, I'm sure you'll come across them all.
That's true. One story that will always be with me with for for the rest of my Christmas is Jingle All the Way.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
true. I am
Okay.
also currently reading a Christmas related book because I was like मैंने खुद लिखी मुझे दूसरों की भी पढ़नी चाहिए Christmas related indie books. So I am on a crusade of that kind, and currently I think I'm reading it. I already have my Kindle here. Let me just get the title correct.
Yeah.
It's called My Lucky Night by Olivia Spring, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's a rom-com, and it starts on Christmas Eve, and the
Oh,
protagonist is writing the story in the first-person narrative, and she's hilarious. So I would totally recommend.
oh, I would love to read it.
And
Okay. Last question.
sorry, I was just saying that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm a rom-com lover. So you give me a good laugh out loud story with elements of romance, and I will buy it. I won't even think twice.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. So Indian or foreign authors, and why?
I think when I was growing up, I was conditioned a lot to think that only foreign authors write well because we were colonial, very much colonial kids, I believe. And अपनी हिस्ट्री बुक्स भी देख लो यार, हम ब्रिटिशर्स के बारे में ज्यादा पढ़ते थे अपनी हिस्ट्री से ज्यादा.
Mm.
So that influenced a lot of my reading preferences also. But in the past
Mm-hmm.
4 to 5 years, I have made it a conscious choice to pick up Indian authors, especially indie Indian authors. And I would totally recommend reading them because even in the Indian diaspora, we have a lot of talent and a lot of good authors.
Yeah.
So if you are somebody like me who has been influenced in their childhood to read only foreign authors, now is the time to change that preference and try out Indian authors also.
That's true. And one more thing I would like to add here that there are Indian authors who would, who know their literature. They are just not getting chance to get published.
Yes.
And there are indie authors, and there are traditionally published authors who have written a book, just with an intent that it will be converted into a screenplay. So there are more of screenplay writers and less of authors. So it's not like every time in traditional published books you will get excellent and highly recommended, and it's not like every time in self published books you will get some unedited or some fanfic type of quality. It more than expected, it's other way around, and they both are not comparable most of the time. But what I feel is that every author should have a chance to
Yes.
shine.
Yes. And if you are somebody like us who does a lot of reading on their Kindle or reads ebooks, Amazon will automatically direct you to authors who are in the same genre or who have written similar books. Uh,
Right.
if you are skeptical about trying out their book, just download the sample that will give you a good idea of how the book is going to pan out. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can download it for free. अगर नहीं मजा आ रहा है 10-15 पेज के बाद तो रिटर्न कर दो ना सिंपली बुक यार क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है ट्राई तो करो.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Yeah, so that's about. I am so happy that we were able to encourage people to read indie authors through this episode. It makes me the happiest more than anything else, more than learning from you and understanding your style of writing. I think I am glad we were able to use this platform to promote other authors also.
this is kind of my mission to let people know that indie authors are not the rejects. Because I know some indie authors who did not even send their script to traditional publishers. They just published it because they know that how long it takes and their stories are excellent.
Yeah.
So I think every author needs to shine.
Yes.
Every author.
And this is very true. A lot of authors are going the KDP way or the self-publishing
Yeah.
way or the indie way just to, get their stories out as soon as possible because, maybe they have the confidence that their stories are really good or maybe they don't have the patience to, wait for that long 6 months or 1 year just to get the book out. So don't have that preconceived idea in your mind that self-published or indie authors are not as good as traditionally published authors. They are all talented. And as I have learned from my experience, and I'm sure whoever is a voracious reader like myself has experienced that there are good and bad authors in both pools of authors. There are bad authors in traditionally published authors, all authors in books also, and there are bad authors in indie and self-publishing also. But you have to learn to identify.
Yeah. And there is, in every genre, there are a lot of choices for everyone. So you don't even need to, just differentiate between traditional and self. Just go with your genre.
Yes.
You like fantasy, there are both in everything, and you like rom-com, whatever you like. There, people have written, people have published by themselves also. People have published through traditional publishing houses also.
Yeah.
It's all about what suits your taste. That's it. A person should just try to enjoy their book. The book should, be with them for a very long time.
Exactly.
That is what should matter.
Yeah. Don't decide your reading preference based on how the book was published. As simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. True. And we have given a chance to, all these, since there were very high level production houses in Bollywood. But as, as movie watchers and all, we have given a chance to very small platforms like the Viral Fever and all. And we have really, we have raised their bars. So we can do with books also. We can give a chance to the author, and if we really like, I think we should not leave any chance to promote them or recommend them to anyone else.
Very true. I mean, I don't think TVF would have reached the kind of popularity that it has reached today if it were not for their good content. They have been producing good content from the very beginning. And if given a chance, how far a production house can go is it just goes to prove that if given a chance, indie authors can also grow to that level.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Chhavi. It was such a pleasure having you. I believe we did have a few questions in the comments by someone. I think it was Sukena. Let me just make sure. Sukena, if you are still here with us, can you please type the question?
Sukena is having really fun here in this conversation.
Sukena, are you with us? Can you type your question again so that I don't have to scroll up? I'm still trying though. I I believe she's not with us anymore. Truth bombs. Yes, truth bombs. I don't know what led to that comment from her. But yes, you're all about truth bombs.
Yeah, so she has asked, how does it feel to review and author a book too?
Oh,
Very scary.
I believe she's here. Hey. Yes. Oh, okay. I don't know if this question was directed to you or me, but since I have been doing this for a while now, I have been reading and writing both more than a couple of years now. So I will answer first and then you can go. Uh, I have always maintained my opinion that I am a reader first and then I am a writer. If not, I was not a reader, I would never have become a writer or an author. So I am easily able to differentiate between the two because clearly I have prioritized my reading above my writing. So it's never scary for me. And in my reviews also, if you have followed my reviews or those who are following my reviews, I clearly mention what I like and what I don't like. So That's one thing I have been very clear about. If I like something, I will write endlessly about it and talk endlessly about it. If I have not liked it, I will endlessly write about it and talk about it that also.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Uh,
Would you like to answer now, please?
See, I might sound like a broken record, but in my conversations with Elegant Book Club, BBC, I always give a reference called as, butter chicken and palak paneer. So, if I prepare butter chicken tomorrow for anyone, so somebody will like it, somebody won't like it, somebody say, "Oh, no, we are vegetarian, we cannot, eat something like that." Same with the book. Whatever book I write, I have to be prepared that there are some people who would love it and there are some people who would, completely reject it. They will say that it's not our taste. And we have to be prepared for all kind of readers. So, when I had this group discussion of my book with Elegant Book Club, what I discovered personally was that there were some who really appreciated it. There were some who, uh, there was one person who said, I could not understand anything. I was so, I got mixed up with medical jargons and all that. But every kind of review was acceptable to me because I was just thankful that they gave the time of their lives to my book. And that is the most important thing.
Right. Very true.
If somebody is giving their time to your book, to something that you have made, that is more than enough. After that, good review, bad review, it doesn't matter. But if bad review contains something, regarding how your plot line was or how your language was, if it is a genuine kind of criticism, I think we should pick that also. That is equally important.
Yeah. Something that helps you to improve it. It's good, right? In whatever you are doing.
Exactly. So there was something, some unedited words also in my book that I need to edit and release a second edition. There are few people who pointed it out. Only then I came to know that there are certain mistakes, at some 4 or 5 places, and they're like quite noticeable. They're not even like that some people can just brush it off or something like that. As I told you, that bibliophiles are a very intelligent group of people. You cannot fool them just like that. So when people just, pointed out those mistakes, I was very happy that this is a chance where I can improve my book, maybe relaunch it with second edition, and, just convert all the criticism into the opportunity. That's it.
Right.
And that is how, you can become a better author.
Very true. Very true. It was such a fun conversation. And those who are still with us, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to ask in the comments. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up today because I believe we are out of topics to talk about now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be just going around in circles and talking about the same
I
thing.
think if I stay here for much longer, maybe I will reveal the plot for my next book also.
Or we'll keep talking about the same things and then people will be bored. So
That's true.
if you guys are here with us and if you have any questions for us, please feel free to ask in the comments, or we'll just wrap it up. We'll wait for a few more seconds and let me just begin wrapping it up. Thank you, Chhavi, for joining me today. It was so wonderful talking to you, and I'm so glad we could use this episode as a platform to not only promote our books but also talk about other indie authors and self-published authors whose books need more attention and they deserve to be read more. So thank you for joining me and being a part of this cause that I have been doing for over the past couple of years.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had just as much fun.
And to all those of you who joined us and were constantly, sending us hearts and different emojis to show your support, thank you very much, and for staying connected with us throughout the session. This episode will be available on my IGTV, and I will also be putting it up on my YouTube channel. So whoever has missed it can go back later and have a look. You can skip the parts that you don't enjoy. That's the best part about watching it later.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you for joining me, everyone. Have a great weekend, and same to you, Dr. Chhavi. Bye. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.